Chapter 2. Big brother, this is not one of your best ideas, Jake said. You've been missing for 2 years. Do you realize what that means? Most people think you and Veronica are dead. Your apartment has been sold. There's mountains of paperwork you need to do before you can get any of your money. Neither one of you has a job, and if you're smart, you'll steer clear of that caseworker and the Board of Child Welfare. There's so much to sort out, and we can help. You make some good points, Henry, Veronica said. Maybe we should stay put until we get everything settled. Sabrina's father shook his head stubbornly. Getting out of Ferryport Landing is more important than any of those inconveniences. Granny Rella looked to be on the verge of tears. Sabrina had never seen her so upset. But Henry... It's not open for discussion, Mom, he snapped. Veronica frowned but held her tongue. I don't think you'll be able to get to Manhattan until the train gets cleaned up, Goldilocks said, gesturing to the mess still on the tracks. Fine, Henry growled, and then marched up the embankment to the parking lot. The group followed in tense silence. Soon they found the family's ancient car. Oil leaked onto the asphalt, and a mysterious green fluid seeped from the muffler. I can't believe you still drive this hunk of junk, Jake, Veronica said. She's family, Jake said. You can't abandon family. Henry's face went red. A fight was on the horizon. This day was not turning out the way Sabrina had dreamed. How do you get everyone into the car? She asked, hoping to change the subject. You couldn't fit the bears inside even if you squeezed. That was my doing, Uncle Jake said with a wink. He reached into one of his jacket pockets and took out a small wooden box. Inside was a green dust that spun around in a tiny tornado. Daphne's eyes lit up with wonder. What's that? One of the few magical items I have left after Baba Yaga stole my other coat. It's stretching powder. I got it from the little old lady who lives in a shoe. With 70 rugrats in one old boot, she had to get creative. How does it work? Daphne asked. You can make something as big or as small as you want for a limited amount of time with just a sprinkle. I blew a handful into the car, and now it's big enough for a whole forest of bears. So gravy, Daphne said, eyeing the green particles. Gravy? Sabrina asked. The little girl was always coming up with silly new phrases or words. Daphne ignored her sister and kept her attention on Uncle Jake. Can I try? Henry snatched the box, snapped it shut, and stuffed it into one of Jake's pockets. Keep your magic away from the girls, he growled. It's dangerous and I don't want them anywhere near it. Dad, don't worry, Daphne said. We use magic all the time. Henry glared at his mother. It was obvious he didn't approve. I'm getting pretty good at it too, Daphne continued, completely oblivious to her father's rising temper. In fact, I have a few wands and enchanted ring of my own, just like a real witch. A 5-year-old shouldn't be within 100 miles of magic, Henry cried. Hand everything over to me as soon as we get to the house. None of that nonsense is going back to New York City. Dad, I'm not 5 years old. I'll be 8 in 2 weeks, Daphne said. Henry froze and gaped at his daughter as if she was speaking ancient Greek. Maybe we should go, Goldilocks said with a forced smile. She opened one of the rusty car doors and helped the bears lumber into the back seat. Sabrina and Daphne followed and couldn't help but marvel at what they found. Uncle Jake's stretching powder did the trick. The car's interior was enormous. even bigger than Granny Rhoda's living room. Veronica took a seat between her daughters and wrapped an arm around each of them. So, what have we missed? Granny's been teaching us to be detectives, Daphne said excitedly. Granny shifted uncomfortably. You knew I didn't want them involved in the family business, Henry interrupted. We've been careful. They've both been perfectly safe, Granny said. Sabrina laughed, and the entire family turned to face her. You disagree? Henry asked her. Sabrina felt Granny's betrayed eyes on her. No, she mumbled. Sabrina, if you have something to say, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear it, Henry demanded. It was nothing really, just a giant tank, and then Rumpelstiltskin was eating my emotions, and then we killed the Jabberwocky, and... It's dead? Henry asked, bewildered. Granny Rhoda nodded. What else, Sabrina? Her father pressed. I was turned to a frog and almost eaten by Baba Yaga. We were attacked by a giant robot, nearly killed by Titania, sucked into a time vortex. Time vortex? Cried Veronica. It was so cool, Mom, Daphne said. We met our future selves. Sabrina was married. Daphne! Sabrina screeched. No one knew the complete truth about what the girls had seen in the future. Her marriage and, most importantly, the identity of her husband was supposed to be kept secret. If Puck ever found out. Married? Puck laughed. Who would marry you? He must be blind. Sabrina clenched her fists. She had no idea what her older self saw in the smelly, annoying fairy. She had to admit that Puck's grown-up version was very cute, but how had she gotten over all the insults, pranks, and mean-spirited jokes? Maybe there weren't any other men in the future. That could be the only explanation. Anything else? Henry demanded. Yeah, we were barbecued by dragons. Sabrina was taken over by the rabid spirit of the big bad wolf, and I think that covers it, Daphne finished. We had a yard sale too, Uncle Jake said from his place in the driver's seat. Go ahead, Jake. Make a joke out of it like you always do, Henry said. Relax, Hank. Mom protected them every step of the way. I've been here for most of it too, Jake said. Elvis let out a low growl. The dog wants to remind everyone of his contributions, Goldilocks said. Daphne hugged the big dog. We all know you're the real hero, Elvis, Elvis barked. He says heroes deserve sausages, Goldilocks translated. And what about me? Puck said. I've been pulling this family from the jaws of death on a daily basis and haven't seen a dime for my troubles. Henry scowled. If you don't mind, we're having a family discussion. Who are you anyway? Peter Pan? Henry, Granny cried. No, he's very sensitive about... I am not Peter Pan, Puck bellowed as smoke blasted out of his nose and mouth. In his outburst, he blew the top of the family car into the air, turning the old jalopy into a very crude convertible. No one was hurt, but the family launched into a massive, many-sided argument. Granny argued with Veronica, Henry shouted at Puck, the three bears roared and snapped at one another. All Sabrina could do was watch quietly and hope no one turned on her. When her little hand slipped into hers and gave it a quick squeeze, Sabrina was elated that Daphne had finally turned to her. But when she looked down, she found Red Riding Hood. The little girl trembled in fright, unnerved by all the shouting. Sabrina couldn't bring herself to comfort Red. She yanked her hand away as if it had slipped into the mouth of an alligator. Red seemed hurt but didn't say a word. Finally, Granny Rhoda put her fingers in her mouth and blasted a high-pitched, ear-rattling whistle. Everyone fell silent, and she turned her attention to Uncle Jake. Jacob, why in heaven's name are you driving so fast? Sabrina eyed the speedometer. The red needle was pushing 110. Because we have a major problem, Jake cried. What are you talking about? Henry asked. Well, big brother, when you insulted Puck, you blew the roof off the car, and now the integrity of the interior is compromised. He shouted over the wind. In English, please, Veronica said. I enchanted the inside of the car to fit all of you in it. Now, the inside is also the outside, Jake explained. So? Granny asked. So, now the magic has two choices. It can make the whole world bigger, which would be very, very bad. I'm talking earthquakes, tsunamis, all kinds of insane weather. Real bad stuff. And what's the other choice? Goldilocks asked. The interior of the car is going to shrink back to its normal size, Jake explained, which means it's going to get very cramped back there very fast. Sabrina looked at the three bears. Each probably weighed around 800 pounds. How fast? She heard a popping sound, followed by a loud hiss as the car rapidly shrunk. She was pushed roughly to the center of the back seat until she was nearly on her mother's lap. Drive faster! Henry shouted over the wind that beat against his face. Don't tell me what to do, Uncle Jake said. Then don't drive like an old woman, Henry snapped. They sound like you two, Puck said to Sabrina and Daphne. Both girls glared at him. The faster Jake drove, the quicker the car seemed to shrink. Sabrina soon found Puck's nose within an inch of her own. If the back seat got much tighter, they would be pushed even closer together. Accidents could happen. Accidents with lips. I hope you brushed this morning, Puck said, closing his eyes and puckering up for a kiss. Uncle Jake, drive faster, Sabrina begged. Fine, I don't want to kiss you anyway. I'm out of here, Puck snarled. His wings unfurled and he leaped into the air, flying high above the car. Sabrina was relieved, but not for long. When the car shrank again, her face was forced into Papa Bear's hairy armpit. When they finally arrived at the house, Uncle Jake pulled into the front yard, barreling through shrubbery and bringing the car to a halt just inches from the porch. Everyone spilled out of the car and onto the lawn. Baby Bear toppled over Goldilocks. Elvis jumped out and scurried under a bush. When Uncle Jake opened his door, he fell out along with Veronica and Granny Rhoda. Sabrina hit the ground with a thud, then looked for her sister. Daphne was nowhere to be seen. Daphne, she cried. Did she fall out? Mama Bear grunted and got from her seat. There, beneath her, was Daphne, a little mushed but safe. I have never needed a bath so much in my entire life, the little girl groaned. Do you see that, Jake? This is exactly what I'm talking about. We all could have been hurt by that magic, Henry said. Veronica, take the girls inside and help them pack. Don't let them bring anything that can cast a spell. Henry, really? Granny Rhoda started. He cut her off. Mom, I need to use your phone. I'm going to call everyone we know in New York City. Someone will take us in, at least for a few nights. He turned to Sabrina and Daphne. Go on, girls, go with your mother. Granny unlocked the... That seems to be the end of this video. I'll send them later. Goodbye.